when I'm knowing that I'm going to be doing this job, I try to immerse myself completely in each of the books, but to the exclusion of the others, because you don't want the books to kind of bleed into each other and see that they've got different sort of or similar outlooks. So what I do is I just read one obsessively over and over again. And I was reading Paul Farley's The Mizzy, and I went round to see my brother, who just lives down the street, who looks just like me, except he's bald. And when we walked down the street, we looked like a novelty cruet set. And but I went into his house, and I had this book with me, and he had the radio on, and the Wichita Lineman by Glenn Campbell came on, which is I think my favourite song ever. And then at the time, I'm trying to think of how do I make it, what do I talk about when I talk about Paul's book? And it was that. It was, you hear him singing in the wires. You know what I mean? You do, when you read this book of Paul's, just like the Wichita Lineman, you do hear him singing in the wires. When I walk back from my brother's house to my house, one of those misty days when you can hear the telegraph wires humming, you hear traffic noise in this book. You hear overheard conversations. You hear the sound of a family photograph album being turned, and the idea of the sound of memory being unlocked. And what you also joyfully hear such a lot throughout this book is birdsong. So birdsong, the wires, the overhead conversations, the past being opened up. There's a fantastic line in the book at the junction where the wrong side of the tracks meets memory lane. And in the end, I think that is at the heart of this fantastic book, The Mizzy, by Paul Farley. Paul.
Thank you, Ian, and thank you all. It's wonderful to be a part of this. Missel thrush. The first park is always the fastest park, parked under a cloudless sky and fastened in memory with stakes and ropes. The word picnic is a tablecloth thrown onto the grass, attached to the word green. The word idle waits out of earshot. A fawn in the fountain burbles. There is sun-blessed. There is golden wonder. And then thunder. Now the park begins bristling under that sky, which is darkened. This is the future. This is counting towards the sound. These are the particles rising like the bead in your cream soda. This is the Mizzy beginning its song from the top of the highest tree. This is a drone shot of a thunder god. This is a dangerous place to be, and I, sings the Mizzy. I, a copper crozier. I, a silver vaulting pole. I, a suit of platinum armour. I, a boom of gold. The Mizzy, with its restraining order on humans, the weariest thrush. The Mizzy that's working the park pretty loose. The day is all coming unstuck, where a moment ago you were in a safe place. Now there's distance everywhere you look. The Mizzy will only allow you so close. The thunder follows the flash. The words that you're learning all carry a charge and attract or repel. Bring it on, the Mizzy sings, holding its nerve, flying in the face of us. I'm going to read a poem in the voice of a water nymph with a Scouse accent. And this nymph has found gainful employment at a nuclear power station. And it's called Water Nymph at a first-generation Magnox storage pond. We hook up in the last places you'd look. flooded subways, lift-well pools where rain holds up, gazed over gravelled shallows, moss gardens on bus stop shelter roofs. We're found near waters just like these since Zeus got us on 0 hours contracts, having deserted springs, dew ponds and tarns, taken our severance, joined the queues, and tell our sob stories of meres and fens long drained, filled in, paved over. Cry me a river, some babble. New reservoirs will create thousands of jobs. Purists sit on their arses, waiting for water features to come to them. But if they'd take a cistern, a temporary post beside a rain butt, a bath plumbed into quickset for the cattle, a leaky fridge condenser, hoof print, divot, or, sod it, a puddle, there's always work to be had. Lately, in the kingdom of the blind, they've built these radioactive oubliettes. Keeping the lights on means having to forget. And after 2 millennia of mills, of aqueducts and sullen moats, we gather in their background shine. Those clicks are the echolocation of exiled nymphs. Listen to this one. A century of gutters. That one got stuck next to a dead man's kettle. Another slummed it by a whirlpool spa for years. If you're picturing pale skin or golden tresses, my hair falls out in tufts. Maybe we're turning mortal from bathing alongside scrapped fuel rods, old thunderbolts, rusting and spent, where water carries a charge and tastes like coins banked in a civic fountain's silt. Or, this is going back, pools with the taint of lead scrolls scratched with binding spells or curses, words that would burn in air. In this lido left to stagflate, I need only apply myself to my reflection, and there's a post for life, longer than a life. No wishes or spite can outlast all this legacy sludge. I'm inventorying the waste, just like I used to count the flowering grasses and clouds that lingered in those earliest springs before I watched the world evaporate. The Green Man. The boy who taught us how to charm the worms by throwing fairy liquid on the grass, then how to bait our hooks and cast a line into the pool where little perch would rise, who knew the Vulcan pinch and the Cruyff turn, who whistled with his thumb and forefinger, who understood how damp and sappy wood burned slowly with a yellowy green flame, who showed us how to slap life from a fish, who knew that hogweed bled a poisoned sap, who taught us how to bluff at stud poker, who told ghost stories in a broken whisper, who took the first watch and the only watch, who left the tent at dawn to steal the milk, has been kicked to death in the car park of a pub on the other side of the year 2000. A land we like considering at length, the things we'd do in it and who we'd be, before we fell asleep while he stood guard as the fire died and the stars formed up above. And the last poem is called Poker. Sir Roddy. Poker. You're told this deck was found in some shattered body or croft, north of the great glen, missing its 6 of diamonds, shuffled and dealt to a soft pliancy, greased with lanolin. And you're told this deck lived behind the bar in a barracks town and came out to play most nights, cut between the Falklands and Iraq, its spring long gone, dark-edged with mammal sweat. And you're told this deck is the one recovered from a halfway house where fatty stalactites grew in a microwave oven, where a bottle of famous grouse was brandished in a fight. And it might be a pack of lies, or it might be a sleight of hand. And you can't tell which is a bluff, because words are a good disguise for holding nothing. I've found that nothing is more than enough. Thank you.